Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Oh, hey, let me go on tap. I wanted to show you some. Yeah, I get a chance to put up that background. I just feel like wrestling with it today. I wanted to show you something. Something very positive that you know some people don't get a chance to do, particularly in the black community. You'll hear too many black commentators talking about that, and this dude is really seldom. But we're gonna show you about something through these videos.
Expectations. First week, I saw a 4%
Uh-oh.
return. Doing nothing. All you gotta do is set the pot up and make sure.
Would you believe it if someone claimed that black people are superior? Labeling one group as superior and another as inferior is a flaw in our social structure. However, when examining genetics, certain factors can contribute to differences. Nature has favored black people with exceptional genes, leading to their prominence in various domains such as sports, wrestling, and bodybuilding. But what specific factors contribute to their genetic superiority? Let's find out.
The Black History Archives.
Black individuals worldwide consistently excel in various domains, from sports like basketball and bodybuilding to physical attractiveness. This has fueled curiosity about whether a genetic factor contributes to their dominance in these areas. The reality is indeed rooted in the presence of superior genes within the black community. In sports, black athletes often stand out for their exceptional performance. Whether it's the electrifying moves on the basketball court or the awe-inspiring feats of bodybuilding competitions, the prowess of black individuals has left many in awe. While talent, training, and dedication play crucial roles, the genetic foundation is equally significant. Genetically speaking, specific factors contribute to the athletic prowess of black individuals. ACTN3, a gene influencing power generation, is a key player in this genetic game. The R allele of ACTN3 is prevalent among West Africans, allowing individuals to produce significant power and force. This genetic advantage sheds light on why black individuals excel in sports that demand explosive movements, such as sprinting, basketball, and American football.
When I found out I had metastatic prostate cancer, our bond gave me strength.
Moving beyond the world of sports, the genetic story unfolds in the arena of bodybuilding. Here, myostatin mutations take center stage. Myostatin is a protein hormone that regulates muscle growth, and mutations in the myostatin genes of black individuals have been identified. These mutations reduce myostatin production, allowing for muscle hypertrophy, the potential to develop and maintain large, strong muscles. This genetic advantage explains why individuals of sub-Saharan African descent often dominate in bodybuilding and other strength-based sports. However, the genetic edge extends beyond the physical prowess in sports and bodybuilding. Regarding physical attractiveness, black individuals often radiate a unique and appealing aura. The myostatin mutations contributing to muscular physiques also play a role. Reduced myostatin allows for a sculpted physique that adds to the overall appeal. Additionally, androgen receptors, activated by hormones like testosterone, play a significant role in muscle growth. Research indicates that individuals of African descent tend to have higher androgen receptor sensitivity compared to other populations. Discuss these genetic advantages in detail to see where nature has blessed black people. Genetic diversity is real when it comes to the black community. We're talking about the kind of diversity that puts a spotlight on Africa, the motherland of humanity, with a hopping 1.4 billion people. It's like a genetic carnival where the main show features traits that range from the towering Dinka folks in South Sudan to the pint-sized booty people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let's break it down. Africa isn't just a continent, it's a genetic treasure trove. It's not just about skin tones and hair textures, it's about genetics, which includes everyone from the broad-shouldered Maasai in Kenya to the lean and mean sand people in Namibia. Now, don't think all black folks share the same DNA sequence. That's not how it goes. In the genetic world, that ensemble is the black community, and each DNA DNA strand brings its flavor. Stroll through Africa, and you'll see genetics playing the lead role. In Nigeria, you've got the Yoruba people flaunting their melanin-rich skin like it's a fashion statement. Meanwhile, the Nubians in Sudan turn heads with their distinct facial features that scream individuality. But let's not forget the Khoisan people. They're like the genetic heroes, showing off traits that make you do a double take. From their unique click languages to their adapted immune systems, the Khoisan are the rebels of the genetic landscape. Now, when we say black superiority, we're not talking about conquering others. We're talking about conquering the genetic game. It's fascinating how genetics tell a story, and in Africa, it's a tale of resilience, adaptability, and pure awesomeness. Take the Zulu warriors in South Africa, genetically wired for battle and courage. Their DNA is like a superhero origin story, creating warriors who don't just fight, they conquer. But let's not get it twisted. Genetic diversity isn't just about physical appearances. It's the secret behind the intellectual prowess of the black community, the ancient wisdom of the Dogon people in Mali, the mathematical genius of the Ashanti in Ghana. It's all written in the genetic code. So the next time someone tries to put the black community in a genetic box, hit them with the truth. Diversity is their strength. It's not about fitting a mold, but breaking it and creating a new narrative. But does natural selection play a role in this? Here's a reminder to please support us so we can make more videos for you by subscribing to our channel and giving the video a like. We want to build a strong community, and we need your support. Let's continue now. Natural selection is like the architect of genetic resilience, and in the black community, it's been busy shaping some serious superpowers. Check this out. Sickle cell traits among West Africans aren't just a genetic quirk. It's the result of Mother Nature playing defense against the malaria epidemic. Individuals rocking these traits have a built-in defense system against malaria, making them the genetic avengers of the African landscape. Survival of the fittest. It's more like the survival of the genetically wise. But that's not where natural selection takes a breather. Ever wonder why black athletes dominate the playing field with their athleticism and explosive moves? Thank natural selection for that VIP pass to the world of genetic athleticism. Let's break it down. It's not just about hitting the gym. It's about hitting the genetic jackpot. Natural selection has curated a genetic playlist for black individuals, and it's all about those muscle fibers. Fast twitch muscles? Check. Quick reflexes? Double check. It's like having a genetic cheat code for sports excellence. Now, we're not saying all black folks are Olympic contenders, but let's give credit where it's due. Natural selection has sprinkled some athletic stardust in the genetic mix. It's not about superiority. It's about having a genetic edge that's been fine-tuned over generations. But what is so special about black people's genes? Genetics isn't just a spectator in the world of sports. It's the game changer. And one gene, ACTN3, is like a creator of athletic prowess. We're talking about a gene that's not just in the game. It's in a league of its own regarding power generation. Now comes the R allele, the power-packed superhero of the genetic arena. This allele isn't just a casual player. It's why some individuals can have significant power and force. We're not talking about a light jog, but about explosive movements, the kind you need in sports that demand serious power. Now comes another reason why black people should consider themselves blessed, and that is myostatin mutations. Genetic secrets are like the architects of sculpted physiques, and when it comes to black individuals, myostatin mutations are the blueprint for strength. Myostatin, the muscle growth referee, usually keeps muscles in check. These mutations hit the brakes on myostatin production. Less myostatin means a green light for muscle hypertrophy, the kind that gives you a ticket to the big leagues of bodybuilding. It's not just about hitting the gym. It's about having a genetic advantage that lets you carve out muscles like Michelangelo with a chisel. Sub-Saharan African descent takes the genetic spotlight here. Reduced myostatin doesn't mean less muscle, but more potential for large, robust muscles. That genetic advantage explains why black individuals flex their muscles and dominate in bodybuilding and strength-based sports. But wait, there's more to the genetic story. Androgen receptors are the gatekeepers to muscle growth, activated by the powerhouse hormone, testosterone. Here's where it gets interesting. Individuals of African descent are packing higher androgen receptor sensitivity compared to other populations. This heightened sensitivity isn't just for show. It's the reason behind black individuals' rapid and efficient muscle development. But what proves black people are stronger? In the world of bodybuilding, the title of Mr. Olympia is the pinnacle of achievement, and two extraordinary athletes have carved their names into history by clinching the prestigious title not once, not twice, but an astounding 8 times each. Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman stand as giants in bodybuilding, sharing the honor of being bodybuilders with the most Mr. Olympia titles. Lee Haney's reign of dominance spanned from 1984 to 1991, an era where his sculpted physique and unparalleled dedication to the sport propelled him to victory year after year. Fast forward to the late 90s and early 2000s and enter Ronnie Coleman, a powerhouse of muscle and determination. From 1998 to 2005, Coleman asserted his dominance in the Mr. Olympia competition, matching Haney's record of 8 victories. His sheer size, strength, and flawless execution of poses made him a force to be reckoned with on the bodybuilding stage. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Both Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman share a common trait that goes beyond their remarkable achievements in bodybuilding. They are both black athletes, and this fact has sparked conversations about the potential influence of genetics on their success. This confirms that genetics plays a role in making black people the leaders in every domain. Do you think the black people are blessed? What are your thoughts about nature giving special treatment to black people? Let us know in the comments section. What edge have you seen black people getting because of their genes? Would you like us to make more videos? If yes, please support us by subscribing to the Black History Archives and clicking the bell icon. You can check out more videos on our channel too.
Everything was designed here for a reason. The frequencies were designed for certain reasons.
Wow, that was really, really interesting. But I want to show you something very interesting about another thing about black people. If I can find it on here. That maybe some people don't really take the time out to really study each other and see the uniqueness in the culture of being the black man and a black woman. It's amazing. Just amazing. And it doesn't mean, it's just that this is just based on genetics and everything. But you see how other nationalities have a disdain, a kind of jealousy, envious, hatred spirit. And I believe that's part of the envious hatred spirit that they have for over 400 years when it comes to black people. And so they mentally try to feel like they can get up in your head to try to make you feel like you're not all that, or they feel like they have to dominate and they can control you. And but everything that we do, they can't compete, and so they do simple things, and it's jealousy. It's envious and jealousy. I believe that other individuals of other races have a lot of envious and jealousy, so that's why there's so much backlash, and they try to use derogatory names to try to so-called keep us in our place and try to destroy our spirit. And so that's what they do. And only someone demonic would do something like that. And that's why they jealous at us. Don't even know. But this backs up. I don't know if I ever played this, but this video confirms what I'm talking about.
is, behind closed doors, the P word became my secret sin at age 10. And for the next 17 years of my life, what I did in the incognito tab made me feel like a hypocrite and a...
Another area that should be addressed. Black-owned businesses are more likely to be located in predominantly black neighborhoods that need the infrastructure and businesses. However, black business owners are still less likely to obtain capital from banks to make their businesses successful. This reparations package for black Americans is about restoring the wealth that has been extracted from black people and communities. Still, reparations are all for naught without enforcement of anti-discrimination policies that remove barriers to economic mobility and wealth building. The architecture of the economy must change in order to create an equitable society. The racial wealth gap was created by racist policies. Federal intervention is needed to remove the racism that undergirds those policies. In some respects, the question of who should receive reparations is more controversial than what or how much people should be awarded. In the course of this video, we have laid bare the harsh realities of systemic sabotage that has plagued the black community in America for centuries. From the shackles of slavery to the subtler chains of discriminatory policies, the road to economic equality has been fraught with obstacles. However, acknowledging the truth is the first step toward dismantling these barriers. Having exposed the truth, we must now turn our focus to solutions. Real change begins with dismantling discriminatory policies, advocating for equitable opportunities, and fostering an environment where black entrepreneurs, professionals, and communities can thrive. Educational reform, access to affordable housing, and targeted economic empowerment initiatives must be at the forefront of our efforts to bridge the wealth gap. Furthermore, fostering open dialogue and actively challenging implicit biases are essential components of creating a society where every individual, regardless of their race, can prosper. As we move forward, let us collectively commit to breaking the cycle of systemic racism and ensuring that the promise of equality extends to every corner of our nation. In unity, education, and advocacy lies the power to reshape the narrative. By acknowledging the deliberate sabotage that has kept black Americans economically disenfranchised, we can work towards a future where true equality is not just an aspiration, but a lived reality for all. The path forward may be challenging, but with awareness, empathy, and concerted effort, we can build a society where opportunity knows no color, and prosperity is a shared reality. This brings us to the end of this video. Tell us what you think in the...
And I'm going to show you why black people
termites,
deserve it,
bedbugs, mosquitoes, whatever form an invader
and they don't
takes,
show this
our
part
guardian
about
plants
the black
protect your
American.
whole home.
But the
Give me
immigrants
year-round
don't know
protection
that
from
this is what
Scherzinger
we done.
termite and pest control.
They don't know our
Our family
history
protecting your family
and
since
other groups of
1934.
people. We ain't shipless and lazy. And this video is going to show you how patriotic we were.
At 1-800-CONTACTS, we're here for people like
So
Shauna,
anybody
who
come
are with
to
the
you
best
saying
storage
that we
budget
ain't
with our
get
budget
nothing,
loving best price guarantee,
that's a
which
crock
means
of
that
crap. Black Americans.
When the names Orville and Wilbur Wright are mentioned, the beginning of aviation is often the thought that follows. But history is changing, and it may be time to add another name to that conversation.
When you think of aviation, the first name that comes to mind is the Wright brothers, right? But could you believe that around the same time, a Pineville, Louisiana man patented his plan for the first airplane?
It's a story that it truly is unbelievable, and not only unbelievable that it happened, unbelievable that it's being ignored until 2023.
African American and former slave Charles Frederick Page invented the airship and patented
Must be the video.
his version before the Wright brothers. Why he is not known by every schoolboy and girl today is a sad mystery that needs to be corrected. Paul Leo Ortega also invented the working passenger-carrying version of the helicopter. Why he is also not better known is a sad mystery. What is also a strange coincidence is, both men lived about 2 miles from each other during their lives in central Louisiana. Welcome to yet another interesting video segment. Today we are taking a dive at the forgotten black aviator who soared the sky before the Wright brothers. Before we continue, be kind as to hit that like button and support us further by sharing video with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative. Also subscribe to help in building the rising membership of this channel. Your support counts a great deal. Now come with me, this is going to be touching. In the annals of aviation history, Charles Frederick Page's name has been conspicuously absent, overshadowed by more celebrated figures like the Wright brothers. Yet, his story is one of remarkable innovation and unyielding resilience in the face of systemic racial oppression. Born into the harrowing reality of slavery, Page taught himself to read and write and ventured into the realm of aviation, patenting an airship in 1906, a feat that absolutely predates the Wright brothers' patent. The significance of Page's invention cannot be overstated. It was not merely an airship. It symbolized a technological breakthrough and a bold leap into a future where flight would become a pivotal part of human progress. However, Page's achievement took place against the backdrop of the Jim Crow era, a time characterized by relentless white supremacy and racial segregation.
It was shipped, and something happened. Now, due to the Jim Crow prejudice of the time, we firmly believe that it was stolen and destroyed.
These were years marked by the systematic denial of opportunities and recognition to black Americans. More insidiously, these years were marked by lynchings of black people who committed the cardinal sin of becoming successful in the plain view of their white counterparts. This stark reality deeply impacted the course of Page's life and work. Page's story is not just a tale of a forgotten black inventor. It is a narrative that speaks volumes about the eraser of black contributions to society and the tenacity and ingenuity of an individual who dared to dream and create in an era that sought to stifle such aspirations based on race. His journey, shrouded in the shadows of racial prejudice and historical neglect, compels us to question and challenge the biases that have long permeated our historical records. In understanding Charles Frederick Page's legacy, we must acknowledge the corrosive impact of white supremacy that not only hindered his personal aspirations, but also veiled his contributions from the world. It is a stark reminder of the countless black innovators whose stories remain untold, their achievements unrecognized, due to the systemic racism embedded in our society. This is why Black History Month was created in the first place. The journey of Charles Frederick Page began in the most oppressive of circumstances. He was born into enslavement. This brutal system not only deprived individuals of their freedom, then but also systematically denied them access to education and knowledge on the pain of mutilation and death. The early years of Page's life were marked by the harsh realities of bondage, where learning opportunities were virtually non-existent for African Americans. Page demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to self-improvement and education despite these formidable barriers. In an era when teaching enslaved people that to read and write was often prohibited and could even be punished by law, Charles Page's pursuit of literacy was a radical act of defiance. He taught himself to read and write, a remarkable achievement considering the systemic efforts to keep people of African descent in a state of enforced ignorance. This self-education was not merely an academic endeavor, it was a powerful tool for resistance and empowerment in the face of oppressive racial policies. Page's inspiration for his airship invention came from observing the flight of dragonflies. His family recounts that he would spend hours watching these insects, fascinated by their flight dynamics. The story goes that he would watch those things in flight for hours at a time, and I assumed that it's where he got his inspiration to build an airship. That is Joseph Page. Talking about Charles Page, who happened to be his grandfather, a farmer and timberman in Pineville, Louisiana. Granddaughter Katty Page Williams heard the same story. At an early age, I was told that he had this invention.
In just 2 weeks, I lost 36 pounds. I have more energy, better mood. I feel attractive again. And you can do it too. Just keep watching.
$69 Special Forces device turns men into beasts. It emulates over 50,000 crunches in 15 minutes, burning calories and melting fat.
At an early age, I was told that he had this invention, the airship or the airplane, says Katty. This observation had led him to conceptualize and eventually build an airship around 1903, coinciding with the Wright brothers' developments in aviation. Page's innovative approach to flight was rooted in the natural world, reflecting a keen sense of observation and creativity. Page got a patent for his airship in 1906 before the Wright brothers. But Page's story takes an unusual turn. He planned to enter his airship in a competition for a $100,000 prize at the 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis. He took his life savings, he built a working model, tested it at his home in Pineville, and then shipped it off by train to St. Louis, Missouri, where he was going to fly the airplane in St. Louis, Missouri, and then become a chapter in all of our history books, says Michael Wynn. But the aircraft never arrived at the World's Fair. His plane was destroyed or stolen, possibly due to the fact that he was an African American, says Wynn. I think that because he was a black man who had the audacity to try something that had never been done before, it's probably one of the reasons why the model disappeared and the history was never corrected to show that, says Joseph Page. Charles Frederick Page's airplane was somewhat primitive compared to the Wright brothers. It did have its own engine for horizontal movement, but it actually relied mainly on balloons and was called an airship. However, there is no record of Charles Page ever building another airship, but there is a renewed effort in the city of Pineville to publicly recognize his achievements. Joe Page says, he had to care for his family. He just never saw an opportunity to gather that amount of money again and deny his family of a decent living, so he never pursued it again. His granddaughter Kathy Williams believes his airship could have won the competition. I think it was actually number one, probably found by someone who didn't want it to get there and was destroyed or it was stolen, Kathy says. Here lies Charles Frederick Page, a black man who was never recognized for his contribution to aviation, but instead of giving up, he became a farmer and a family man. He made bricks, he made coal, which was fuel at that time, commonly used for, and it was a number of things that he tried to do to better serve the community, says Joe Page again.
I think Page deserves that whenever the Wright brothers are mentioned, Page should also be mentioned to some extent in our national history books.
Frederick Page's airship, an extraordinary testament to his ingenuity, showcased several innovative aspects that distinguished it from other early flight endeavors. Unlike the Wright brothers' fixed-wing aircraft, Page's design was centered around a lighter-than-air concept, using buoyancy as the primary mechanism for flight coupled with powered propulsion and directional control. This approach starkly contrasted the aerodynamic principles exploited by the Wright brothers. Charles Frederick Page's airship incorporated a unique dual balloon system, a radical departure from the standard single balloon designs. These balloons were not merely for show, but integral to the ship's functionality. The design allowed for greater control over ascent and descent, a crucial factor in the safety and maneuverability of early airships. The innovation lay in the ability to adjust the volume of gas in the balloons, thereby controlling the buoyancy and altitude of the airship. The airship also featured a hull resembling a sailboat, which housed the key operational components. This included a gas engine that powered a propeller wheel at the rear, providing forward thrust. Including a rudder for steering was another critical element, allowing the pilot to navigate the airship more precisely. The Wright brothers' aircraft, which made its first successful flight in 1903, relied on heavier-than-air flight principles. Their flyer utilized wings for lift, an engine for propulsion, and a system of cables and pulleys for control. The Wright brothers' work pioneered controlled, powered flight in a heavier-than-air machine. The timeline of Charles Page's patent is particularly significant. His airship was patented in 1906, 3 years after the Wright brothers' first flight, but before their patent in 1909. This chronology suggests that while the Wright brothers were making strides in one approach to flight, Page was concurrently exploring a radically different path with his airship design. Writer and amateur historian Michael Wynn is trying to rewrite a missing part of aviation history. He collected newspaper stories, drawings of the airship, and Page's 1906 patent. It's a story that truly is unbelievable, and not only unbelievable that it happened, unbelievable that it's being ignored until 2023, he says. Page's invention, therefore, stands as a remarkable but primarily silenced milestone in the history of aviation. It represents an alternative route to the dream of flight, pursued in parallel to the more widely acknowledged achievements of the Wright brothers. The contrast in their approaches to solving the problem of human flight underscores the rich diversity of thought and innovation that characterizes the early history of aviation. The trajectory of Charles Frederick Page's life and his airship invention was significantly impacted by the insidious force of white supremacy. Racial prejudice not only created systemic barriers for black inventors like Page, but also played a crucial role in the eventual sidelining of their achievements. In an era where black success could mean a death sentence or an entire town being burned to the ground, to be a black inventor was a revolutionary act in and of itself. The most painful example of this was his airship model's mysterious disappearance. Scheduled to be showcased at the 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, the model has yet to arrive. The prevailing belief, supported by historical context and family testimony, suggests that the model was likely stolen and destroyed, a victim of racially motivated sabotage. This theft was not just a loss of a physical model, but a symbolic erasure of black innovation from the narrative of aviation history. The climate of white supremacy during this era was characterized by a systemic denial of recognition and opportunity to black individuals. This denial extended to intellectual and creative achievements, where black inventors often saw their contributions minimized, if not outright ignored. In worst-case scenarios, racists would steal inventions, legally take patents through racist courts, or even assassinate black people in order to take credit for their work. This cultural and institutional evil systemically erased black achievements from mainstream historical narratives, reinforcing a skewed perception of history that predominantly highlighted white accomplishments, and setting our society back in unmeasurable ways. The disappearance of Page's airship model had profound emotional and financial impacts. This event represented not just a personal setback, but also a broader narrative of the challenges faced by black innovators due to racial barriers. The loss of the airship, in which Page had likely invested significant resources and hopes, would have been a devastating emotional and financial blow. Confronted with the harsh realities of racial discrimination and the theft of his work, Page was forced to redirect his focus away from aviation. This shift was not just a change in professional direction, but also a poignant example of the forced redirection of black talent due to racial barriers. Page turned his attention to serving his community and family, engaging in various entrepreneurial activities. This change, though born out of necessity, demonstrated his resilience and adaptability. Page's redirection towards community and family endeavors highlights a common theme in the experiences of many black individuals during this era: the necessity to adapt and find alternative paths to success and contribution in the face of systemic racism. It is a stark reminder of how racial barriers not only altered individual destinies but also potentially deprived society of the full extent of black innovation and creativity. Recently, a burgeoning effort has been made to recognize Charles Frederick Page's groundbreaking contributions to aviation. One of the most significant acknowledgements has been unveiling a historical landmark in Pineville, the city where Page lived and made his remarkable invention. This landmark is a tangible reminder of Page's contributions and symbolizes a broader movement to rectify historical oversights. Wynne has uncovered local newspaper articles and reports from 1904 recording the outstanding feat of flight by a black man and his airship. His research even further led him to find Charles F. Page's patent predates that of the Wright brothers. I think Page deserves that whenever the Wright brothers are mentioned, Page should also be mentioned to some extent in our national history books. The innovative accomplishments of Page are not only confirmed by historical record, but have lived on through family lore, and Joseph Page, Frederick's grandson, is glad his accomplishments are finally being recognized. For our grandfather to finally be recognized for his contribution to aviation, it's a significant event not just for our family, but also for central Louisiana. The story of Charles Frederick Page is more than the tale of an overlooked inventor. It's a narrative that encapsulates the pervasive impact of white supremacy on black excellence. Page's experience underscores how systemic racism can distort our understanding of the past, silencing diverse voices and burying significant contributions under the weight of prejudice and discrimination. As we reflect on Page's legacy, it's crucial to recognize that his story is not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of historical neglect. We must commit
You're right. Oh, because this is history. This is history they don't want people to know.
We're onto something here. We found something.
They don't want to teach white kids that black kids.
Throughout history, there have been numerous misconceptions and wrong beliefs about black people that were rooted in racism and prejudice. These stereotypes and falsehoods have had devastating consequences and continue to influence perceptions today. It is crucial to debunk these misconceptions and promote a more accurate and inclusive understanding of black individuals and communities. In this video, we'll explore some of the most common historical misconceptions about black people. From distorted views in the media to misleading narratives in education, these errors have painted an unjust picture of black individuals and communities. By examining these falsehoods, we aim to shed light on the truth and contribute to a more understanding and respectful society. Join us as we unpack these myths and celebrate the rich, diverse reality of black history and culture. Also, as a way of supporting the channel, hit the like button of the video, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Your support means a lot to us. Number 1. Black people have inferior intelligence. The misconception of inferior intelligence based on race is deeply rooted in scientific racism, pseudoscience, and biased ideologies. This belief was propagated by various individuals and institutions over centuries, leading to widespread discrimination and prejudice against black people. Early pseudoscientific theories in the 18th and 19th centuries sought to justify slavery through theories of racial hierarchy. One theory, polygenism, claimed that different races were separate species, with black people considered less evolved and less intelligent.
Still like that to
Carl
this day.
Linnaeus, a renowned Swedish botanist and zoologist, classified humans into different races in his work Systema Naturae, 1735, placing Africans at the bottom of the hierarchy, suggesting they were lazy and governed by caprice. In the 19th century, Samuel George Morton, an American physician and anthropologist, collected and measured human skulls, claiming differences in cranial capacity between races. He used this to argue that white people had larger brains and were more intelligent than black people, despite subsequent discrediting of his work. In 1994, The Bell Curve by Richard J. Herrnstein and Charles Murray reignited the race and intelligence debate, suggesting genetic differences in intelligence between racial groups. This assertion faced extensive criticism for flawed methodology and bias. The legacy of slavery and segregation in the United States contributed to stereotypes about the intellectual inferiority of black people. Access to education was systematically denied, creating disparities that persisted for generations. Debunking this misconception involves recognizing that intelligence is complex, influenced by genetics, environment, and access to quality education. Black individuals have excelled in various fields despite systemic barriers, with figures like W.E.B. Du Bois, Maya Angelou, and Martin Luther King Jr. demonstrating exceptional intelligence. Modern scientific consensus rejects inherent racial differences in intelligence, focusing on socioeconomic factors, cultural biases, and social determinants. Acknowledging the historical context and the flawed nature of past claims about racial intelligence helps dismantle this harmful misconception and promotes a more equitable understanding of human intelligence. Number 2. Black people do not feel pain. The idea that black people do not feel pain is a disturbing and unfounded belief that has its roots in a history of racism and medical exploitation. This harmful notion emerged in the context of slavery and continued to influence medical practices for centuries. During the era of slavery in the United States, black individuals were often subjected to brutal medical experiments without anesthesia, as it was falsely believed that they had a higher pain tolerance or were immune to pain. Dr. James Marion Sims, considered the father of modern gynecology, conducted numerous surgical experiments on enslaved black women without anesthesia. His actions exemplified the racist beliefs that underpinned medical practices of the time. The misconception that black people felt less pain persisted beyond the abolition of slavery, influencing medical education and practice. Medical textbooks and curricula perpetuated these stereotypes, leading to inadequate pain management for black patients. Physicians were sometimes reluctant to prescribe pain medication or provide proper anesthesia during surgical procedures for black individuals, contributing to their suffering.
Now imagine hearing something like that. Imagine black Americans hearing that this what
If
they
you haven't
thought.
noticed, the dollar has been losing more and more value by the day, and it's time we took control of our financial future. Let me ask you a question. It's not fair that the rich keep getting richer while the rest of us struggle to make ends meet, right? But what if I told you there's a way to level the playing field? A way for us to...
An infamous example. An infamous example of this misconception occurred in the case of Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman whose cancer cells were harvested without her consent for medical research. Despite undergoing painful treatments, her pain was often dismissed or undertreated. Her story highlighted the systemic bias in medical care. Prominent medical institutions, including the American Medical Association, played a role in perpetuating these stereotypes by failing to address racial disparities in pain management and anesthesia administration. It was only in recent decades that medical organizations began acknowledging these disparities and advocating for equitable treatment. Debunking this harmful misconception requires a concerted effort within the medical community to confront and rectify the historical and ongoing disparities in pain management. It is essential to recognize that all individuals, regardless of their race, experience pain and deserve equal access to appropriate medical care and anesthesia. Addressing these biases and ensuring culturally competent care are crucial steps toward rectifying this deeply entrenched misconception in the field of medicine. Number 3. Black people are inclined to criminality. The perception of inherent criminality among black individuals has its origins in a history of racial bias, discrimination, and systemic inequality. This harmful belief has been perpetuated through various means, leading to unjust stereotypes and biased criminal justice practices. During the era of slavery in the United States, enslaved black individuals were often portrayed as inherently rebellious or criminal, justifying harsh punishments and the maintenance of the institution of slavery. The fear of slave revolts led to the demonization of black individuals as potential criminals, reinforcing racial stereotypes. After the abolition of slavery, the Reconstruction era was marked by efforts to maintain white supremacy through the criminalization of black life. The notorious Black Codes and Jim Crow laws were enacted, which restricted the freedoms of black individuals and disproportionately criminalized them for minor offenses, further perpetuating the misconception that black people were prone to criminal behavior. The 1915 film, The Birth of a Nation, is an example of how media and entertainment contributed to this misconception. Directed by D.W. Griffith, the film depicted black men as violent and sexually predatory, reinforcing negative racial stereotypes and fueling fear and bias. The war on drugs in the late 20th century also played a significant role in perpetuating this misconception. Strict drug policies disproportionately targeted black communities, leading to high incarceration rates. The media often portrayed these communities as centers of crime and drug addiction, reinforcing the stereotype of inherent criminality. Political figures and policymakers have sometimes promoted this misconception as well.
Joe Biden.
The concept of super predators, popularized in the 1990s, falsely claimed that there was a generation of young, predominantly black individuals who were inherently violent and dangerous. Revealing the truth on this requires a comprehensive understanding of the complex factors contributing to crime rates, including socioeconomic disparities, lack of access to quality education, and employment opportunities, and systemic discrimination within the criminal justice system. It is crucial to recognize that attributing criminality to race is not only unfounded, but also perpetuates injustice and inequality. Advocating for criminal justice reform, addressing racial profiling, and promoting equitable opportunities are vital steps toward dismantling this deeply rooted stereotype. Number 4. Black people are the cursed children of Ham. The belief that blacks were the cursed children of Ham in the biblical story of Noah was often used to justify slavery and racial discrimination.
It's crazy.
This misconception originated from a misinterpretation of the Bible and was promoted and exploited by various individuals and institutions. The story of Ham and the curse of Canaan appears in the book of Genesis in the Bible. According to the narrative, Noah's son Ham saw his father naked and drunk, and as a result, Noah cursed Ham's son Canaan. However, the curse was not explicitly directed at all of Ham's descendants or associated with black people. Still, some interpreters, especially during the era of slavery, erroneously linked Ham to blackness and used this misinterpretation to justify the enslavement of Africans.
All over the world. All over the world, they did this. They taught other societies to do this too. They taught the other societies.
Listing your house on the market isn't the only way to sell your house. Selling to us is much faster, easier, and way more convenient. We want you to know, if you need to sell your house for any reason, click the link in this video to see if our offer is right for you. We make the process of selling your house easy and simple.
Shit it. Come on, go back to the video.
One of the earliest proponents.
This is all truth coming out. This is the reason why black people are hated. They had to push the narrative. And so, this is yet to come out. Stay away from black people. Because this is what they told the people. Criminality.
One of the earliest proponents of this misconception was the Dutch theologian Petrus Comestor in the 12th century, who suggested that Ham's descendants were cursed with black skin.
Just where they got it from.
This idea gained traction during the transatlantic slave trade era,
That's how I got to
European
America.
colonizers and American slave owners exploited this misinterpretation to dehumanize and justify the brutal enslavement of African people. In the 18th and 19th centuries, pro-slavery theologians in the United States, such as Josiah Priest and Samuel Stanhope Smith, used this misconception to argue that slavery was divinely ordained and that black people were destined to serve white masters. Such theological justifications for slavery perpetuated a deeply racist ideology, and this false belief in the curse of Ham served as a means of control and oppression. Over time, this misconception was widely discredited by scholars and theologians who correctly interpreted the biblical text. It is essential to recognize that the misinterpretation of the story of Ham and the curse was a distortion of the Bible and was used as a tool of oppression and racial discrimination. Today, it stands as a painful reminder of the historical exploitation of religion to justify heinous acts of enslavement and racism. Efforts to debunk this misconception have played a crucial role in challenging the legacy of slavery and promoting racial equality and justice. Number 5. Black people are biologically different from whites. The misconception of inherent biological differences between races has a troubling history rooted in pseudoscience and biased ideologies. This false belief emerged from various sources and was used to justify discrimination and segregation. In the 18th and 19th centuries, European scientists and thinkers began classifying humans into different races, perpetuating the idea of racial hierarchy.
White supremacy.
Prominent figures like Carl Linnaeus classified races hierarchically, with Europeans often considered superior. These categorizations laid the groundwork for pseudoscientific theories, suggesting inherent biological differences. The works of scientists like Samuel George Morton who measured skull sizes and claimed racial differences in intelligence and capacity, contributed to the misconception. Morton's biased research influenced others and became a basis for arguing that different races had inherent biological distinctions. During the eugenics movement in the early 20th century, the belief in inherent biological differences was used to support policies of forced sterilization, immigration restrictions, and racial purity laws in several countries, including the United States and Germany. Eugenicists wrongly claimed that certain races were biologically superior, while others were inferior, justifying their discriminatory practices. The Nazi regime, in particular, promoted the idea of Aryan racial superiority and used pseudoscientific concepts to justify the Holocaust and other atrocities. These ideologies led to the genocide of millions of people deemed racially inferior. Even in the United States, racial segregation and discriminatory policies were often justified using the belief in inherent biological differences. These ideas perpetuated the oppression of African Americans and other minority groups. Modern genetics and anthropology have since debunked the notion of inherent biological differences between races. Human genetic diversity is vast, but the genetic variations between individuals of different racial backgrounds are minimal compared to the variations within racial groups. This scientific understanding underscores the fallacy of racial superiority or inferiority based on biology. Debunking this is essential for dismantling racial discrimination and promoting a more equitable society. Acknowledging the historical context and the flawed nature of past claims about biological differences helps promote the understanding that racial disparities are primarily the result of social, economic, and historical factors, rather than innate biological traits. Number 6. Black people are inferior in education. The issue of educational inferiority among black individuals is marked by systemic racism, discriminatory policies, and unequal access to education. This false belief emerged from various sources and was perpetuated by those who sought to maintain racial hierarchies. During slavery in the United States, it was illegal to educate enslaved black individuals. Slave owners were often fearful of educated slaves and believed that literacy could lead to rebellion. The denial of education was a deliberate strategy to maintain control and reinforce the perception of black individuals as intellectually inferior. Even after the abolition of slavery, the Jim Crow era saw the implementation of segregation in schools, where black students were forced into poorly funded and substandard educational facilities. This segregation was justified by the false notion of separate but equal, which falsely claimed that black schools were on par with white schools, despite clear disparities in funding and resources. The 1896 Supreme Court case Plessy v. Ferguson upheld racial segregation, cementing the idea of separate education for black and white students. This decision perpetuated the misconception that black students were inherently inferior and could not thrive in integrated schools. Throughout the 20th century, standardized tests were often biased against black students, leading to lower scores and perpetuating the stereotype of intellectual inferiority. Some researchers wrongly claimed that these disparities were due to innate differences in intelligence rather than systemic disadvantages. Negative stereotypes about black individuals in media and popular culture have contributed to the misconception of educational inferiority. These portrayals often reinforce the idea that black students were less capable academically. Despite these historical injustices and stereotypes, black individuals have consistently demonstrated their intellectual prowess when given equal opportunities. Examples of accomplished black scholars, scientists, artists, and leaders, such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Maya Angelou, Thurgood Marshall, and many others, have shattered the myth of educational inferiority. Bringing the truth to light involves acknowledging the historical context of systemic discrimination and advocating for equitable access to quality education. Efforts to address disparities in funding, resources, and educational opportunities are essential steps toward promoting a fair and inclusive educational system where all students can excel regardless of their racial background. Number 7. Black people are prone to violence. The misconception that black people are inherently more prone to violence has its origins tied to systemic racism and biased stereotypes. This harmful belief emerged from various sources and was perpetuated by those seeking to justify discrimination and social inequities. During slavery in the United States, black individuals were often portrayed as violent and dangerous to legitimize their enslavement and the brutal treatment they endured. Slave revolts, such as Nat Turner's Rebellion, were used to reinforce this stereotype, even though these uprisings were acts of resistance against oppression. The Reconstruction era and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan further fueled this misconception. The Klan used violence to intimidate and oppress black individuals and their allies who advocated for civil rights and equality. These acts of terrorism aimed to portray black people as threats to white society. Biased media portrayals also played a significant role in perpetuating the stereotype of black violence. Sensationalized news coverage of crimes committed by black individuals often reinforced negative stereotypes and created a distorted image of black communities. In the mid-20th century, the civil rights movement challenged racial discrimination, but some opponents attempted to discredit it by portraying peaceful protests as violent and chaotic. Such attempts sought to maintain the false narrative of inherent black violence. Even in contemporary times, instances of police brutality disproportionately affecting black individuals have been used to reinforce the misconception of black violence. Media coverage of protests and civil unrest has sometimes focused on isolated incidents of violence, overshadowing the broader message of racial justice. Debunking this harmful misconception requires acknowledging the historical context and systemic racism that has contributed to disparities in violence and crime. It is crucial to understand that crime rates are influenced by socioeconomic factors, such as poverty, limited access to quality education, and systemic discrimination, rather than inherent racial traits. Advocating for criminal justice reform, addressing disparities in policing, and promoting social and economic equity are essential steps toward dismantling this deeply entrenched stereotype and fostering a more inclusive society. Number 8. Black people live primitive or underdeveloped societies. The belief that African societies were primitive or underdeveloped is a deeply rooted stereotype that has its origins in the colonial era and Eurocentric biases. This false belief emerged from various sources and was perpetuated by those who sought to justify the exploitation and colonization of Africa. During the colonial
my video keeps cutting out for some reason. Okay, maybe I'll stop right here. Yeah, so what I want to say was, what this is the education of white supremacy. When black people say white supremacy, this is why your Ron DeSantis, your Sarah Huckabees, and all these other people don't want this being told. And other Democrats and Republicans don't want to compensate for this. And do you see why black Americans want their own stuff? Because want their reparations? Want this because this is what was perpetuated. This has a history. So when other individuals chime in on black Americans' struggle and say that, oh, you guys don't do this, you insulting the people who built the foundation. So this is the reason why some black Americans get highly pissed when someone come over here and think that they got their behind on their shoulders, and you don't understand the whole history of this. And if we was taken out, they go to the next group of people who try to rise up again. Because that's America. You on a land that has a historical. And this is why videos like this don't get too popular on my channel. because it's true. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So you like and subscribe and share it with somebody. Educate people, because people need to know. You know, if you black, you see where it come from. Now you see the horror end of it. I had to paint you a picture. But overall, that's why they condition you as black men and black women to condition you. It was a process, and they still do it. To kind of discourage you. You're not a curse on your skin. You're not criminally minded. This is something that they taught because why? It was obvious. Jealousy and envious. Even till this day, they even have other groups of people coming against us. That's why black Americans want their own. That's why they're striving ADOS, FBA Foundation Black America, stuff like this. This is the reason why you're seeing so much this on the video. Reparation. Why these black people crying about reparation? That's why. That's why. And I've been telling this, but it didn't get that. It don't get too many views. But so that why these black people can complain? Now you see the history. Why they want to cut it out? They want to cut this so they want to be responsible. But let me be clear. If they don't compensate this country due to the ugly history of all these things that happen, things if they don't do right, what is done unto the people like us is going to be done unto them. And it could be in the near future. So wouldn't it be right to do the right thing? But this hardness in America will stubborn it. And every time they harden up, like I mentioned in past times, like Egypt, America's going to is the counter cost of it. All because a human race of people wanted equality like the other human race of people. And you see how the way this, I told you, it's the totem pole. It was the totem pole. Why? You probably bet some people thought I was crazy. Oh, this guy's just talking. You had to see it for yourself. I wasn't just talking. I wasn't just making this up. You know, this is true. This is how I learned about this stuff and want to share with other people. And this is the history that what you see then is still the spirit of it till today. They still doing the same things in all areas of what this video mentioned about. They still doing it to black Americans. They still, get them underfunded. Go to Mississippi. Go to Flint, Michigan. Go different other parts of the country. Baltimore. Anywhere but black Americans, they subjugate them and keep them bound. But them days are over. Them days are over. Because as they keep doing that, it's going to get the Most High God's attention. And he's going to balance it out. And if they don't heed the warning, they're the ones who are responsible, will be the one to be going in bondage. And they were going to be sorry what they've done. So they can write out the law books and school books, but what comes around goes around. Because nothing new comes on the dark. Every civilization, if you look into history, have probably did something similar, and in the end they were destroyed, and they were dismantled and destroyed over time. So America keep playing this game. Don't want to do the right thing. Harden up her heart like some other people. Don't repent. You're gonna see like you see other countries in the past. In another 100 years, you'll see. That's all I gotta say. We're gonna see. They don't want to do right by us. Just don't worry, it's coming. They're gonna feel it. If they don't, and I pray that the ones they would be live to see, and this great dread is gonna be over their heart. and they might be the first one going to bondage, just like they done us. It might be another group of people doing that. So they need to think about what they do and make it what's right. If they don't do what's right, it's coming for them. Nothing new up under the sun. Everything repeats itself. Now it's their turn. The ones who push the law, who caused all this in religion, healthcare, and everything. It's coming. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe and share it with your family. And I hope it enlightens people from another country that, yeah, black America wasn't lazy. Don't listen to what the government or any individual telling you. We're not lazy. We were never lazy. We have a culture. It's not what you see. Who controls the images? The mainstream do. They make you think that we don't have it. Think about it. So now, hope you get a better understanding about black Americans, what we go through. And don't listen to the hoopla if you're from another part of the world. Alright then, educate your family. Till next time, be light.